Okay, guys, I'm gonna play more Narcissu today. It's really early, so I hope I don't fall asleep. I have to take a nap after this. Voiced. Okay, taboo. I'm almost done with this too, so.
はい、今日のお弁当。うん、行ってきます。
Just like always with lunch in hand, I headed to the hospital. Even though it was already halfway through August, the hot days still seemed to be continuing. The seventh floor. To the nurses, whose faces I had become familiar with, I lowered my head slightly in greeting. What I then saw in the hall was a number of patients. Since it was right when the morning temperature examination ended, they had probably come with their helper for a walk. Suddenly, while looking at those people with white wristbands, a thought came to me. The residents of the seventh floor, couldn't they be divided into two groups? The patients who seemed almost to have taken a philosophical view and were calm, those who seemed to always be busy doing something.
大丈夫ですよ。ちゃんと支えてますから。
Hearing a voice I recognized, I turned around. There was Chihiro-san. She was with an elderly lady in a wheelchair. Most likely that person was Chihiro-san's assigned person. Say a walk again later. Could we do that?
そうですね。もう少し日が陰ってから中庭に出ましょうね。
With a calm way of speaking, she turned her usual gentle face to the elderly lady. Say, Chihiro-san, would you do that thing you always do?
いいですよ。
I had thought she would answer that way as she quietly joined her hands.
私たちを試みに合わせないでください。
And she offered up a prayer, a number of other words following.
ね。あ、節美さん。ああやっていつも祈ってるの。ええ、誰かのために祈るのは良いことですからね。
Chihiro-san answered with her usual kind expression. But at those words, I felt something that nagged at me. For someone. That was why I tried asking a direct question.
自分のためじゃダメなの。それは。
There, her words stopped. There was no more response from her. The usual gentle face was also gone. The first time I saw that expression on Chihiro-san, a simply troubled face was looking at me. Like before, Himiko-san was gazing at maps. At my entering the hospital room, she gave me a brief glance, her eyes soon returning.
面白い。
Does it seem that way?
うん。
As I answered, I sat down next to her and gazed at the maps also. Just as I thought, this sort of activity couldn't be considered fun, but these maps were what they were to Himiko-san. These maps, what were they to Himiko-san, I wonder. Even the seventh floor people who seemed to have taken a philosophical view on everything, perhaps they too wavered with some regrets.
例えるならば、私たちは死刑囚ね。え、死ぬと宣告だけされたけど、その日がいつ来るかわからないから、限られた時間に追われているのよ。
The condemned, now that she said it, one could almost agree. Just as I had thought just before, on the seventh floor there were people who were always busy. Rather, one could even think that because they knew they were dying, they were trying to be lively. Or perhaps for people, being aware of death, maybe that's the first time they are also able to become aware of life.
落ち着いている者は、すでに覚悟のできた人でしょう。もしくは、そう装っているものでしょうね。姫子さんは、もちろん後者よ。この年で覚悟決められる人間なんていないわ。
She declared it plainly.
そうじゃなかったら死ぬまでにやってみたい銃のことなんて言わないでしょ。
Saying just that, once again Himiko-san gazed at the maps. Then she turned to me, who was gazing at the maps in the same way.
説明髪伸びているわね。あ、うん、そうかも。
Now that she mentioned it, it might have gone a bit longer. This month mother hadn't cut it for me yet.
切ってあげようか。え、来なさい。お姉さんがカットしてあげるから。
At the sudden offer, I couldn't really grasp the situation, but with the Himiko-san already walking ahead, I followed after. Then when we came in the front of the nurse's station, she turned to the nurse inside.
ねえ、上行きたいんだけど貸してくれる？
There's nothing wrong with that. Is it a haircut?
ええ、今日は風もないからね。
Then after taking something from the nurse, Himiko-san once again walked down the hall.
説明こっちよ。
Walking a bit, the place we finally stopped at was the end of the hall. To be correct, it was just where you got off the emergency stairs, in front of an always closed large metal door. Up until now, I had never seen it open. Most likely, this was the entrance for the roof.
じゃーん、ここで鍵の登場。
For a second, the world turned pure white. When my eyes adjusted, what appeared before me was strong wind, summer sky, high fence, many laundered sheets fluttered in the wind.
今日はいい天気ね。絶好の散髪日和よ。
Looking up at the sky, Himiko-san spoke up.
初めてでしょ。ここに来たのは。うん、初めて。まあ普通はそうよ。入院患者には絶対に来させない場所だからね。
That reason, even without saying, could be imagined. A fence about the same height as the 7th floor ceiling. What reason put it there was simple if you thought about it.
じゃあ散髪しましょうか。本当にやるの？大丈夫よ。こう見えてもお姉さんうまいもんよ。
As she spoke, she pointed to a small bench before us.
さあ、まずはそこに腰掛けて。
And then she took out a big, clear white garbage bag.
次はここに頭を通して。
Probably cut with scissors, there was a hole just large enough to pass one's head through in the garbage bag. I probably cut with scissors, there was a hole just large enough to pass one's head through in the garbage bag. When I put my head through as told like a barber shop's cover, it totally covered my body. And then before my eyes, she made the scissors go swish swish.
さてお客さん、どれくらいにしますか？お客さん？夏らしくバッサリなんてどうです？揃えるくらいで。了解しました。
While laughing and running through with a brush, Himiko-san, with a practiced hand, then began cutting. Snip, snip. The delighted sound swish of scissors. Just now she seemed to be trimming the hair in the back for me. If she cuts it strangely, that'd be bad. While holding that thought, I also considered other things. She said that hospital patients couldn't come to this place. A reason even I could understand and be satisfied with. Then, unheeding of the fact that she was a resident of the 7th floor, why was it that Himiko-san could come here like this? Was it because she was a former helper, so she's trusted?
ねえ、説明。気になるのは自分の髪？それとも違うことかしら？違う方。いいわよ。じゃあ答えてあげる。元ヘルパーだから信用されてるってわけじゃないわね。じゃあ何？ やっぱこの現代においても禁忌の一つなのよね、カトリックにとっては。
At first, I didn't understand what she was saying, but I soon realized suicide.
元カトリックのくせに信用されているのね。ほんと思わず期待を裏切ってフェンス飛び越えてみたくなっちゃうわよね。
As always, Himiko-san said something where I couldn't tell if she was very serious or joking. Though likely she wasn't, but just if, suddenly she ran towards the fence. What would I do? By now I was the only one here. Somehow while thinking only about that, I started feeling uneasy.
さて、こんなもんかしら。はい、お客さん、カット終わりましたよ。うん、ありがとう。
As I replied, I accepted the hand mirror and looked at my hair.
前髪が。
When I looked about, she said, "Wow, the bangs." When I looked about 2 centimeters above the eyebrows, it was cut straight across. It's like a Japanese doll or child at the Shichigo-san festival. Shichigo-san is a day of celebrating children ages 7, Shichi 5 go, and 3. X-san?
かわいいわよ。せつみ。違う方に気を取られているからよ。女の子なんだから自分の髪も心配しないと。
At my somehow sulking face, Himiko-san looked like she was enjoying herself even more. No matter how much you say it suits me or it's cute, laughing like that, there's no persuasive force behind it. Sigh. Helplessly, I gave a sigh. Then I asked about the thing that I had sensed from before.
ねえ、もしかしてだけど、私を誰かの姿と重ねているの。なかなか鋭い質問ね、それは。
And then when she thought a bit,
半分はそうかもしれないわね。じゃあ残り半分は。それは秘密よ。
that was also made a secret. It was the same with the rules from before. Once in a while, there were things that Himiko-san would talk about.
さてと、じゃあ帰りますか。
Putting away the scissors she used, the two of us then cleaned the space of Himiko's barber shop. Then just when I thought she was walking towards the door we entered from, suddenly those feet stopped and turned around.
ああ、そうそう。最後の一つだけどさ、そろそろかなって思っているんだけど。
The final one, about time? Most likely it was probably referring to what she had mentioned before, 10 things to do before dying.
またどこかに行く気なの？ええ。とりあえずここじゃダメね。こんな高さじゃ足らないわ。
Was she saying that for jumping off it wasn't enough? Those were her words as she pointed at the rooftop fence.
あなたは知らないことだけど、本当なら私2回目くらいなのよ。何のこと？入退院の回数。私はつてがあるからずっといるけどさ。
Then I was taught that the third time was the last, and then there is no fourth.
やっぱ私も体力的にミミと近いみたいでね。病院を抜け出すのもここらが最後だと思うのよ。まあ日帰りは無理だと思うけど、よかったら付き合ってよ。
Slowly the sky stained orange. As the burning sun sank and the loud min-min-zemi switched over to Higurashi. Min-min-zemi are cicadas that go Min, but often heard in the sky. Higurashi or type, often heard at dawn dusk, and are said to have a mournful call. The place I suddenly stopped at was the usual schoolyard. Not really doing anything, just standing in front of the metal bar, thinking about the things from just before. Moni-chan, do you want to play with the bar? Perhaps out of consideration for me being there, a child playing nearby once again spoke to me.
いいのよ。私のことは気にしないで。
At the reply, even while giving me a somehow mystified look, the child once again ran back to the group of friends who were playing. Just before Himiko-san said that returning on the same day was impossible. Where we were going, she didn't know yet, but I was told to make sure to get mother's permission. It's okay, come with me.
無理強いはしない。
Even saying that when you spend close to a month together and then saying that this would be the last. Again, the two of us ate today's dinner. Atop the table were the usual dishes and fried things. Looking pleased, Mother beamed at the empty lunchbox. Even during the dinner, that was the same as always. I was thinking about what happened earlier.
ねえお母さん。どうしたの？またドライブに誘われているんだけど。
ああ、いいじゃないの。例の姫子さんよね。
うん。でも今度はお泊まりなんだけど。
いいわよ、別に。
Despite the possibility of what if, she easily gave her permission.
じゃあまたお弁当用意してあげるわね。
うん。ありがとう。
また頑張って作っちゃうわよ。ってそうだ。今日の出来も悪くないわよ。
Saying that the plate that she offered up was the usual fries.
あら、どうしたの？あなたポテト好きでしょ？
So naturally, very matter-of-factly, Mother offered them, seeming very pleased. On those hands wasn't a pink manicure, instead a slightly reddened hand, happily offered the plate. For fries, all I had to do was quietly eat them. No matter how much I hated them, I endured it. It was fine. But was this really kindness? I wonder. Suddenly I was reminded of Himiko-san's words. Even if whoever was punishing us were not to give us a pardon, I really want to say I'm sorry to Mother, to Himiko-san.
ねえお母さん。
I gathered my courage and brought things to light.
姫子さんって7階の人なの。
え？7階って何？
ホスピスのこと。
ああ、そこの看護婦さんなの？
It might have been perfectly natural, but that's how she was thought of.
そこの患者さん。
はい？
ホスピスの入院患者さん。
え、ホスピスの患者さんって。
A long, very long silence. The voice of the host on the television, not as words but as noise, rang out. In reality, it might have been a very short time, but for me it felt unbelievably long. I thought just maybe never again would time move. It seemed that never again could something go back to how it was, and I was afraid. Already the smile that had been there before was gone. The hand holding a croquette was there where it had stopped. Even though she had been so happy that I had made a friend, if I hadn't revealed it even now, she would have been smiling.
やめて説明。そういう人に近づくのは。
Your mom is afraid.
怖いのよ。あなたもそうなるんじゃないかと思うと。
ごめんなさい。
As expected, I had no other words. That isn't kindness. Words which Himiko-san said to me, who silently ate the fries. putting that into action, I had been told it would be very difficult. Chapter 15, Half a Prayer.
ほら、じっとしてなさい。そんなこと言われてもくすぐったいもん。
The seventh floor's bathroom. Today was the second bathing day of the week.
私までびしょびしょに。ごめんなさい。いいのよ。お姉さんもついでにシャワーしちゃうから。
Even though it could be called wide, compared to a normal home's bath, it was just slightly wider. When we two were in the tub, I was enough to be tight. It was enough to be tight.
まだもうちょっとでシャンプーのすぎ終わるから。はーい。
The girl was squeezing her eyes shut and waited for the end of the shampooing. Even this kind of exchange was not becoming a familiar thing.
さて、次は姫子理髪店よ。
Opening a hole in a garbage bag and passing her right through, I had the girl sit on a folding chair. If there was no wind, it could have also been done on the roof, but mostly the cutting was done in the hospital room. Us helpers were also gardeners, also cleaners, and occasionally barbers. Snip, snip, snip.
どうかしら。前髪も揃えてみたんだけど。なんかちょっと変かも。あら、まっすぐ揃えるのは嫌いだった？そうじゃないけど、短すぎるよな。もうこれくらいが可愛いんじゃない。子供らしくって。なんか恥ずかしいかも。
The scent of the shampoo's mint spread from the still damp hair into the narrow hospital room. The girl sat on the folding chair that I always sat on, and from the garbage bag she gave me a bit of a dissatisfied look. On the floor spread 3 sheets of newspaper. It was a barber shop that used 2 small hand mirrors. A few days after, if one looked, it was towards the middle of August. Today also the girl was here. Today too I was here. Beep beep beep.
じゃあ体温計ちょうだい。
Taking the thermometer that was in her mouth, I read the numbers on the digital display.
なんと6度2分。これなら大丈夫ね。じゃあ今日も中庭でアイス？いいえ。今日は別の予定を考えているの。別の予定？まずそのためにはこっちが先ね。
As I answered, I opened the paper bag I had brought. Half of today's plan was in there.
それ何？新しい服を持ってきてあげたのよ。パジャマはこの前ももらったのに。パジャマじゃないわよ。
With a bit of a flourish, I took it out of the bag and I took it out of the bag to show her. After all, it was something that used up over half of this month's allowance, and I had spent 2 hours debating over which to get.
じゃあ、ワンピース。どう？気に入った？
Happily, the girl vigorously nodded many times. It was a one-piece dress in summery white with a yellow sunflower pattern on it.
さて、それじゃあ着替えたら早速行くわよ。行くって、もしかして外へ？え？教会よ。
As I answered, I undid the buttons on her pajamas. Truth was, for a while she had said she wanted to visit the church.
本当は別にパジャマのままでもいいんだけど。まあ、せっかくだからね。お姉さん、 ありがとう。
The burning sun and the sound of cicadas. Today looked like it was going to be another hot day. Under that sky, we walked side by side. It was the first time we went outside the hospital. Of course, if she said she wanted to go farther, I would be able to take her. No, not that. I wouldn't be able to. No one would. That's why a place like that, like the neighborhood church, was the only place I could take her. The moment we reached the church, I quietly opened the doors that I was used to passing through.
誰もいないね。まあこの時間はね。
The girl's expression turned slightly nervous, even considering her age. It was probably the first time coming to a church.
ここに神様がいるの？それは難しい質問ね。
To be precise, it was probably a consecrated place for the worship of God. At least for me, here or not here didn't seem like an answer I could give.
でもここでなら魔法効果が違うんだよね。まあそんなとこかな。
And we approached the altar and offered prayers. Prayed for the girl's happiness. Even if the future were closed, at least until then, I wished that she would be without regrets. And the remaining half, for always holding many secrets, I prayed for my own forgiveness.
どう？もう終わった？うん。じゃあ帰ろっか。またいつでも連れてきてあげるからね。うん。ありがとう。
And then as we made to leave,
あ、お姉さん？ん？あなたの上に主の豊かな恵みと祝福がありますように。お姉さんにも魔法をかけてみたよ。
seeing that her usual cheery expression faced me, without a single shadow, an innocent smile faced me. Surely she didn't understand the meaning of the words. However, even more so because of that, the sentiment made me really happy. And then half of the prayer used for my own forgiveness, for me who could do nothing other than buy ice cream for her, it was painful. Right above was the sun, but noisy with the cries of cicadas. As usual, the hot days continued, and it was a summer day unchanged from yesterday, but a little bit changed with the girl. Up until now, she had been so attached to me, but between one day and the next, she came to hold a bit of distance. Knock, knock, click.
おはよう。うん。おはよ
Exchanging our morning greetings, I sat down in the usual folding chair. Then, when I looked at the tray, she had already finished eating.
う。もうまたこんなに残しちゃって。ごめんなさい。
Between one day and the next, she wound up barely eating.
ダメよ。しっかり食べないと。でも欲しくないから。なんだったらさ、食堂でもいいから。
Even with that suggestion, no response. Though before, even if it wasn't for ice cream, she'd happily go to not eat. That on this 7th floor was a deadly thing. Unlike other wards, full-blown nutrient IV drips were not given here. Of course, there was some sugar contained in them, but the main purpose was rehydration. The word deadly meant exactly that. It was immediately linked to death.
あのね、そんなことじゃあっという間に弱ってくるんだから。弱ってくる？そうよ。食べないと体が持たないわ。じゃあ弱った先は？もっと体が弱っちゃうとどうなるの？ れ
Here my words stopped. In my throat I swallowed the word die. Normally preaching about life and death was the duty of the church. Our duty was also to support that. And here was the seventh floor, a place where we speak to those who have lived life peacefully of coming death. However, for a girl who could not have been said to have fully lived, just who in the world could speak of death now? Exactly in these times. Maybe I should have let her hear the words of Saint Augustine or Lord Jesus, but for me offering up half a prayer and buying ice cream was all about all I could do. A few days after late night, as always the girl ate very little, and the girl sighed again. I was sleeping in the spare bed. Cough, cough.
大丈夫？
Late at night in the dark hospital room, the girl was coughing. Right now all I could do was gently pat her back. The past few days, because she had been leaving most of her food, it was visible that her strength was dropping. And now she was clearly avoiding me. If I spoke to her, she would barely make a response. The times where she would speak to me on her own completely disappeared. Amongst all that, suddenly she opened her mouth.
お姉さん、これ返す。ロザリオ。
What she took out of her pajama pocket was a rosary, without a doubt the one that I had given her before.
それでね、もうここには来ないでほしいの。どうして突然そんなことを言うの？それは。
That's there her word stopped. Since a few days ago, the girl had definitely been acting strangely. And then a single thing came to mind.
少し前のことだけど、確か知らないおばさんに話しかけられたって言ってたわね。それってもしかしてさ、ルールっていうのに関係してる？
And at that question, there was no response. However, I felt the silence wasn't a no, but a yes. I've been convinced it was a rumor, but it looks like that kind of legacy did exist, and most likely the girl had heard it.
もしよかったらお姉さんにも教えてくれる？でも大丈夫よ。絶対に秘密にするから。誰にも言っちゃダメだって。
Finally, she cried, even though until now not once had she cried. Rules before all that I had heard was that they were only passed to the residents of this seventh floor. I suppose it was only the problem of those who were headed towards death. That was why, for me, I might not have the right to hear. No matter how close I was at Lois, I could not become the patrici who accompanies them in death. In the end, nothing other than someone watching from the side.
ごめんね。もう聞いたりしないから。
Simply just patting her back, so that just even a little bit sooner she would stop crying, just a little bit sooner. She would smile for me just a little bit sooner. The girl continued to cry, but the legacy was passed down. What was in there was simple to imagine. Don't eat. That was the shortest route to death. That was something that his helpers had also suspected. Coming to a place like this seventh floor, people who died from the worst kind of sickness was rare. Instead, seemingly all on their own, they gave up food, simply weakening and then dying. I learned that those were common. Most likely that was not for their own sake. Financially, psychologically, For various reasons, it was probably an act stemming from wanting to lighten the burden of those left behind. I, who had become close, was beginning to be pushed away for the same reason. For the one leaving, it was to pain those left behind just a bit less. And also on top of hearing those rules, there was a chance she learned that which I most feared.
お父さん、お母さんはどこ？私、死んじゃうの？
There my words choked.
それはじゃわからないよ。ちゃんと答えてよ。
I had thought to say something, but especially at a time like this, I knew that I had to say something. Even though I was supposed to know what kindness should be, even though I was supposed to be a Catholic in order to speak of life and death, and yet I could not find any words. Outside the window there was a night sky that was beginning to lighten. In this narrow hospital room, the girl's sobs reverberated. Even though I was the professor, the doctor, I couldn't give an answer. At this time, if I were a real doctor of the church, if I were Augustine or Jerome, maybe I could have answered with something. Chapter 16, Roadster. Outside of the window was burning sunlight. Even though it was still early morning, the heat let you know it was going to be another midsummer day. Since last night I hadn't seen Mother. More precisely, I had been on the brink of tears myself, filled with feelings of regret, and hadn't been able to face her. I'll apologize to Miko-san. I felt really sorry to do so, but I didn't want to make Mother any more sad.
Setsume, もう起きてる?
Mother? It was just before Mother left for her part-time job.
昨日は悪かったわね。じゃあこれ2人で仲良く食べてね。
As she spoke, she handed over lunch boxes for two.
気をつけていってらっしゃいね。
でも
いいのよ。お母さんなりに考えた末なんだから。あなたは私の大切な娘だけど、私はあなたにはなり得ないの。
Softly, but with her usual kind face, she spoke.
だからお母さんなりにね、節美が少しでも笑っていられるようにしたいの。
お母さん
I was headed to the hospital, in my hand the tote bag with two lunches. Early morning. Abruptly, my feet stopped at the usual school. It looked like today the children had come in yet. As always, I was facing the metal bar. And after gazing at it a while, I quietly stretched my hand out. Placing strength into my arms, I pulled up with all my might while kicking the ground. Just for a moment, a sense of floating, and my body spun around. A somersault I hadn't done in a month. And then from a slightly higher place, I looked around at the world. With arms that were beginning to shake from supporting my weight, this world that I could see, the me right now as one of the parts that build up everyday life, I might not appear to be out of place. But that was an illusion. It's not like I was accepted. Placing the school behind me, I headed towards the hospital. I was sure she was waiting, so I hurried to her.
お待たせ。はい、また裏の駐車場に止めてるから。うん、わかった。
As I responded, I accepted the car key. Then I gave them the message Miko-san had entrusted to me.
今回で 最後だって言ってた。最後？お姉ちゃんがそう言ってたの？うん、そう伝えてくれって。そうなんだ。
Sadly, that was all Chiro-san quietly murmured.
どうしてあなたなんだろうね。
Behind those words was definitely a dissatisfaction for clearly being pushed away. And loneliness, sadness was there too.
優しくていい人だからよ。千尋さんは違うのよ。違う？そう、私たちとは違うの。悪いけど意味がわからないわ。うん、私にもよくわからないから。
Why did I say those words, I wonder? The exact reason not even I know. Not even I knew, but now I had a feeling that I was coming to understand Himiko-san's feelings.
でもね、たとえ違ったとしても私は妹よ。今まで20年も一緒に過ごしてきた兄弟なのよ。千尋さん。
The always composed and kind Chiro-san was for the first time crying. That figure, it was neither the pleasant helper nor the resolved Catholic, but simply a helpless girl, even though I...
お姉ちゃんのこといつも祈ってるのに。
Chiro-san continued to cry, and the only thing that I could do was gently pat her on her back. For some other words or technique, I just couldn't find them. Before Himiko-san had said that for people there were only 3 choices. Perhaps Himiko-san didn't want Chiro-san to be Aloise.
ごめんなさいね。変なとこ見せちゃって。うん、気にしないで。
Then I headed to Himiko-san. In my right hand, the key I received from Chiro-san. In my left hand, 2 lunches that mother had made for me. In the end, I didn't know what the final thing was. Even where we were headed, I hadn't been told. The parking lot. Here I waited for Himiko-san, who would probably be coming soon. The car called Uno's that I got to ride last night was today also washed to a shine. Surely Chiro-san or the person we met before at the beach was always keeping it clean. As I thought about that,
悪い、待たせたわね。
Miko-san finally appeared, as always taking the key as if it were perfectly natural. However, her clothes were different from normal. They were probably work clothing, something like white overalls, and were clothes that you couldn't call pretty even insincerely. 0W2. 0. What are those clothes?
うん。今日はこの服じゃないとダメなのよ。パジャマ姿の私では意味がないのよね。
Even though normally whatever she did, it had been in pajamas. Was it that today she was not a resident of the 7th floor?
説明乗って。
I climbed inside the car. Like before, I was made to put on my seatbelt. And once that was verified, quietly the engine started.
じゃあ、行くわよ。
Looking at the sun was high above and it looked to be another hot day. Under that sky with a big turn of the wheel like the Uno slowly moved off. Suddenly where we were headed, what we were going to do, I didn't know. However, just like this, Himiko-san's final drive began. Reflecting the deep blue sky while running a red open-top car. A light engine noise was raised as familiar scenery went by. drowning out the voices of the cicadas as it continued on. Passing the intersection in front of the hospital, in moments we came into a large road.
それでどこに向かうの？
高いところよ。
具体的な場所のことよ。
それはわからないわ。
That was a bit unexpected. It was Himiko-san after all, so whatever she said I hadn't planned on being surprised, but
もしかして気ままに走るって意味？
それはちょっと違うわね。言葉の通り、高いところって意味よ。
with just that it was so abstract I had no idea.
国道に出るまでには決めようと思うわ。
Was it already decided, or was it something that could be decided so easily? Besides, even if a destination were decided, what about the route all the way there? There was no navigation system, and even though she was always looking at maps, it didn't look like she brought them today.
大丈夫よ。どこに行っても道に迷うことはないわ。
なぜそんなことが言い切れるの？
そりゃすでに日本中を覚えたからよ。
The response came as if it were perfectly natural. Was that possible? It's not like I was doubting Himiko-san's words, but for me, it was quite unbelievable.
それにね、今の私に必要なのはナビでもなければ医者でもないわ。
じゃあ何？
そうね。
Then after a moment of
コ
thinking,
ロッケ博士よ。
またそんなこと言って。
the roadster continued on. From the city to the suburbs, then as green started standing out more. During the speed we drove while eating mother's lunch with our hands.
でも説明よくうちの人が許してくれたわね、外泊。ちなみにうちの人にはさ、私ってどんな人物設定になってるの？一般病棟の人？それとも看護婦さんかしら？
Miko-san saw through everything. Clearly, until yesterday, that was exactly how it was.
7階の人って知らせたわ。
へえ、大したもんね。ちょっと見直したわ。でもまだこれが嫌いとは言えてないみたいね。
As she spoke, what was in her hand were the lunch fries.
じゃあお姉さんがとっておきの方法を教えてあげるわ。
そんなのがあるの？
とっても簡単よ。あなたが好きになってしまえばいいのよ。
Certainly, it might be exactly that, but don't say difficult
あら
things.
そう？病気を治すよりは簡単だと思うけど。
I'm sure it was exactly as Himiko-san said. If my sickness were cured, then all the problems would be solved. Mother, who had red in her hands, would not be sad, but once again smile and have beautiful manicures. Even that I understood, but it was something I could do anything about on my own. Compared to that, coming to like fries might be a simple thing. The roadster continued on, with its red hood reflecting the blazing sky. And then just as the sun was coming close to its highest point, what appeared before us was an even bigger road.
まもなく国道に出るわ。
As she spoke, she pulled the car into the shoulder and stopped.
目的地は決まった？
まだちょっと悩んでるのよ。
Hearing nothing other than a high place just what exactly she was debating over, I had no
なん
clue.
か高いって言えば富士山かしら。
富士山？
If I hadn't been mistaken, that was certainly what it sounded like.
なんたって日本一だもんね。
That really couldn't be thought of as serious. Mount Fuji's height, 3,776 meters. Probably didn't need saying, but Japan's highest mountain. I didn't know too much, but I had heard that snow remained even in the summer. For the winter, I had heard that only true mountain climbers could take it on.
じゃ 目指しますか、富士山にでも。
いくらなんでそれは無謀よ。
分かってるわよ。私だってバカじゃないわ。別に山頂を目指すわけじゃない。5合目までは車で行けるし、そこだって標高2000メートルくらいあるんだから。
You mean saying that it's not like she had to go all the way to such a place? Even for normal people, it already had a reputation, and the two of us at the least can be called healthy. And in Himiko's son's case, she was the resident of the 7th floor.
それにね、7階と比べたら100倍は高い場所よ。
Those words I quietly listened to. I wasn't positive, but maybe Himiko-san really was going to jump down. I recalled before, while on the roof, she whispered that this height is not enough, while looking at the
ま
fence.
ずは6号から東北道に向かうわ。
With just that announcement, the roadster once again began running. Heading towards the national road, she turned the wheel. From here to Mount Fuji, just how much distance was there? Not for me, I didn't even have an estimate. All I knew was Himiko-san was not joking but serious, and also she most likely would not get lost. From the national road onto the even larger road, we then switched onto the expressways. Same as before, perhaps even when she was driving her usual safe way, the cars in the high-speed lane were rapidly passing by. Eventually, we came to a place with many tall buildings. It seemed that we had entered the Tokyo area.
板橋ジャンクションから池袋線に乗るわ。
The road that had been straight until now changed to one that twisted. On that congested expressway, the roadster drove even slower.
今抜いてったのはアウディよ。その前のはパジェロ。新型のジオマスターね。
Occasionally, Himiko-san would name the cars that passed us on the expressway.
不思議なもんでね。7階行きが決まった途端、余計に車が好きになったわ。
As she spoke, she slowly turned the wheel, matching the large curve ahead of us. That expression seemed somewhere sad and also somewhat nostalgic to me.
あなたも車好
わからないわ。
き？よかったらこれあげようか。
With a free hand, she pointed at her own car.
どう？もらってくれる？
After a moment's thought, I shook my head to the side. More so than the problem of not having a license, I felt it was something that I shouldn't accept.
みんなに断られちゃったわね。環状から透明に乗るわ。
With those words and a big turn of the wheel, the car shook just a bit. I felt that Himiko-san in the driver's seat was different from usual. Not only were her clothes different, the somehow strict expression were more common. The high place that we're going all this way to go to Mount Fuji. Without a doubt, it was a height that the 7th floor's roof couldn't even compare with. Was she really planning on jumping down? And the 10 things to do before dying. The final thing, just what kind of purpose did it hold, I wonder. 17. Sky. From there we connected onto yet another expressway. Already since we left the hospital, about 7 hours had passed. The area completely became a place that seemed to be out in the middle of the mountains. Straight ahead on a sign were the words Mount Fuji skyline. Most likely we had already came to a place quite close. And then the cloudless summer sky was at some point becoming a deep black evening sky. It's
降って
starting
きた
to...
わね。
When I looked, rain had started to fall from the dark
ちょ
sky.
っと待ってなさいよ。フォロー出すから。
Pulling the car to a stop on the shoulder, Himiko-san started to fumble around for something. And then after waiting a while in the light drizzle,
屋根があったんだ。
ああ、大したのじゃないけどね。
as she answered and closed the left and right windows, the Roadster became like a perfectly normal car. Until now, it had been a mystery as to what was done when it rained, but it apparently took on this form. Once again, the Yunos drove off. The rain had truly begun to come down and obscured the road with pure white. The thick black rain clouds, even though it was still before evening, made it dark enough to let one believe it was night. At a cold sensation striking my head, I looked up at the roof. There was a number of drops dripping down.
悪いわね。これボロだからさ。
And just like the words meant, the dripping leak started. Looking at how the rain was falling outside the window, it didn't look like it would stop for some time.
説明。これ頭にかけてなさい。
What I was given was a large towel, and as told, I put it on top of my head.
姫子さんは
平気よ。それにどうせすぐにやむと思うから。
じゃあ私も平気。
She probably wouldn't say out loud, but this might have been the only towel. And even if she were worried that I would get wet at the least, I was more worried about Himiko-san herself. That's why I tried to give my towel to Himiko-san. When I did,
やめなさい、説明。
this was different from her usual way of speaking. This was the very strict expression that she'd show occasionally.
でもそれじゃあ姫子さんが。
いいのよ。私は濡れようが平気だから。
でも
ただし説明に風なんてひかせたら承知しないわよ。
Make Setsumi? Just who was she talking to, I wonder? Now came down harder the August rain. For some reason, it was excessively cold and still didn't seem like letting up.
なめないでよね。勝手にこの格好してるんじゃないわよ。
As if talking to herself, Himiko-san muttered. I had a feeling that didn't mean physically not getting wet, but instead some different meaning. Throwing up spray, the roadster continued running. Under the endlessly black sky, it now went from an ordinary road onto the Mount Fuji skyline.
もし寒いようだったら言ってね。
大丈夫。
With the towel still on my head, I answered Himiko-san as she got wet from the leaks. It'd be better if she took shelter somewhere. Even such an obvious suggestion somehow faltered in the atmosphere. Gripping the wheel was a Himiko-san that was different from usual. It was the first time I've seen a Himiko-san without pajamas. We continued driving at some point when the rain had completely stopped. If you looked, there was even the face of a large moon out in the sky.
まもなく富士宮口に到着よ。
With those words, we were from a narrow mountain road into a sudden open area. Finally, the Yunos stopped. Looking around, there were signs for the 5th station parking lot. During this season, I had heard that there were many mountain climbers. Perhaps it was the time and because the weather had been bad, but the area had very few cars around.
はい、カンウーロン。暖かいわよ。
ありがとう。
With the tea brought from a vending machine in hand, the two of us are the what remained of the packed lunch.
冷たくなっても美味しいわね。
The two of us remained. Oh. The two of us ate what was remained in the packed lunch. Even cold, it's delicious. Then it seemed like we were spending the night here. But when we set off, she had said that this was our destination. Did Himiko-san plan on going even higher up?
まだ上に行くつもり。
さあどうしようかしら。
Holding a croquette in hand, Himiko-san gave a vague answer. Certainly up until here, we were able to come by car. According to the parking lot sign, the altitude was already 2,400 meters. But from here on there, the only mountain climbing trails. Even if we weren't planning on heading all the way to the summit, Himiko-san, a resident of the seventh floor, couldn't be thought of as being able to climb up a mountain path. And if even then she said she were aiming for higher, shouldn't I hold her back? Suddenly opening the door, Himiko-san stepped out of the car. Just as I was thinking about such things, I also hurried out of the car. When I looked, she was right by the car holding up a night sky, looking up at a night sky that just stopped raining. I was a bit surprised. I thought that she might have started climbing without saying a thing. And then perhaps guessing at my unease, Himiko-san began to speak.
そういえば以前にさ、年の離れた友達が欲しかったって言ったわよね。
あ、うん。
Certainly before the pineapple tree had been the first thing that she had wanted to try.
あれさ、ちょっとだけ嘘だったかもしれない。
嘘。
本当は年が離れてるってよりも、あなただから友達になりたかったのかもね。
Miko-san spoke somehow seriously about what I had also somewhat vaguely noticed.
その理由は。
難しい質問だけど、強いて言えばただの直感かしら。ピンときたって感じね。
That was also something I felt I understood. It was close to the feeling I answered Chiro-san with. And then before, when I had asked whether she was seeing someone else in me, I was told that half of it was exactly that. Then the remaining half of the reason that had been left a secret at the time, could this be it?
ねえ、節美。一つ質問していい？
うん。
もしあなたのとても親しい人が少しずつ弱っていったとして、あなたはそばでずっとその姿を見ていたい？それとも自分の知らぬ間にいつの間にかなくなっていてほしい？
I thought about the meaning of the question. After thinking seriously in my own way,
わからない。
those were my true feelings.
私はずっとそばにいてあげたいと思うわ。でも自分が去る立場ならば逆、そばには誰もいてほしくない。
矛盾してるわ。
その通りよ。去る者と残される者は決して交わることはないのよ。
Even if I could bear my own pain, I couldn't bear another's. She wanted to say that perhaps, then Chiro-san and the best friend we met at the beach avoiding them. Then why was I here in this place? Why was I chosen, I wondered. Did Himiko-san want to say that if it was me, then she could be fine?
これはね、穴に落ちて初めて気づくことよ。だけどどんなに私がここに穴があるからと声を上げても、穴に落ちた者の声は地上を歩いている者には届かない。
That was the reason? Then did she want to say that because I had also fallen into the hole, that voice would reach me.
あなたは違うわよ。まだ落ちかけね。這い上がれる可能性がある。
もし無理だった時は。
それは誰もが自分で考えることよ。
Then the circumstances now were all the result of Himiko-san's thoughts. After falling into the hole, stopping prayers, and maybe turning them into curses.
本当、パトラッシュはいいわよね。大好きなネロと一緒に天国に行けるんだもん。ネロだって寂しくないわ。
Even though I was the professor, I couldn't give an answer. At such a time, if I were a real professor, a doctor of the church like Augustine or Jerome,
なんと答えれるのだろう。
then just tell me this.
これだけでも教えて。神様はどこ？聞こえなかったみたいなの。教会でもお祈りしたのに。
Where is God? At that question, my mouth sealed.
ごめんね。わからないわ。そっか。博士のお姉さんでもわからないんだ。
Then raising herself from the bed and facing the window,
やっぱり空にいるの？
and speaking, she looked up at the sky, looking up from the window that could only open 15 centimeters, the lightened pre-dawn sky. While speaking, she looked up at the sky, looking up from windows that could only open 15 centimeters, at the lightening pre-dawn sky.
ねえお姉さん、私屋上に行きたい。屋上、少しでも高いところでお祈りしたら聞こえるかもしれないでしょ、神様に。ダメ？いい。わかったわ。
Supporting the girl, we headed to the roof. Normally this place was one where patients couldn't go, were not allowed to go. However, at this time for the Eloise that was unable to do anything other than buy ice cream, for the powerless professor who couldn't answer with anything, there was nothing else that I could do. The blue-purple pre-dawn sky was turning into the white of day, a bleak place where no one could be seen. Once in a while, with the blowing wind, the fence was taller than the ceiling of the 7th floor rattled. This place...
気持ちいい場所だね。
She spoke as if whispering to herself, and from her pocket she took out the rosary. That was what I had once given to her as a present.
やっぱりこれがないと魔法にならないもんね。
And then quietly bringing hands together, facing where the sun would rise, she spoke.
みんなが生徒されますように、私たちを試みに合わせないでください。
This too was what I had taught her before, a number of parts from the Lord's Prayer. However, for this girl, she didn't even know the meaning to the words. Simply words for salvation. As nothing other than magic, that was all she thought of them.
お姉さん、今のは聞こえたと思う？
And those words nodding or even affirming was beyond me. I just could do nothing but remain silent. It's useless. Perhaps I should have said that. Or perhaps I should have spoken of atonement. Or perhaps I should have said, for having lived 8 years, be thankful to God.
ねえ、お姉さんも一緒に祈って。
At those words, I silently nodded, could do nothing but nod. Then just like the girl who still continued to pray, to that high sky I offered a prayer. The remaining night air, the widening sky, the cicadas that started to call common everyday things of a summer day. From the 7th floor's rooftop, I prayed only for the girl. I always have had been used for forgiving myself, but now gathered all of it, I prayed only for the girl, definitely supposed to be listening somewhere. Towards that God I prayed. For some reason, tears came. Why are you crying?
泣いてるの？
It's
いいの。別に泣いたって。こんな時には泣いてもいいのよ。
those,
それは誰の言葉？イエス様？
no, those were my own words. If I were a saint, my words were not simply for comfort, nor for our charm. If they were real magic,
今こそ奇跡を起こす。
was leaving of those left behind, no matter how much of a best friend Alois could not become Patrici. I learned of my own powerlessness. Dawn came to Mount Fuji Base Station. We got out of the car and took some big stretches.
ねえ、節美。どこにいると思う？
いきなり。何の
神様とやらよ。
Where is this all of a sudden? God and the like. So I'm just waiting for it to catch up. Where do you think he is? What's this all of a sudden? God and the like.
さあ、あなたの方が専門家でしょ。
そうね。そうだったわね。
And then after a bit of
や
thinking,
っぱあそこかしら。
as she spoke, she looked up at the sky. The pure blue summer sky stretched on forever.
やっぱもっと近づかないと聞こえないのかもね。
They're saying that Himiko-san started walking towards the climbing paths. I'd sensed the possibility, but already that act itself was the same as suicide.
本気なの。禁忌なんでしょ。カトリックには。
モットンには関係ないわ。
And then stopping her walking feet and turning around.
悪いわね、節美。一言言ってやらないと気が済まないのよ。言うって決まってるじゃない。神様とやらに文句はない。
Complaints to God, was she
も
serious?
しかしてそれが最後の一つ。
ええ。これが最後の一つよ。
With just that answer, Himiko-san began walking towards the climbing path. Right now, I should be stopping her? Or perhaps I should be giving her back a push? Because I didn't know which. Just being by her side was all I could do. The sun had come right above, and unheeding of the altitude, the cicadas noisily cried.
思ったよりきついわね。
We continued on the climbing path, walk a bit, then rest, walk a bit, then rest, just repeating that. Occasionally, the other mountain climbers would quickly pass us by without while we slowly went upwards to the high place that Himiko-san aimed for. Now it was some 2 hours in, and we were making to leave the new 6th station.
大丈夫。
あんまり大丈夫じゃないわね。
Just as the words meant, her panting was furious. Even when the food and drinks that we brought at the shop were being carried by me, it probably didn't need saying, but Himiko-san was a resident of the 7th floor. No matter how healthy she looked, no matter that she did need a wheelchair, that was because of her age. Her condition's progression had simply been early. Even without doing anything, there was no mistake that she was within reach of death.
何よその顔は。言いたいことがあるならはっきり言いなさいよ。
もう帰ろう。
もっと強く言ってよ。
え？
だったらもう帰れって命令してよ。
もう帰れ。
やっぱり従えないわね。
And then once again, her feet moved to ascend. Right now, I wonder what should I do. Unable to pull her back, was I only able to be there helplessly watching?
じゃあ押してあげる。
That was why I pushed Himiko-san's back, so as not to lose to the steep slope, so as to make it even just a bit easier in my own way. This was all I could do.
やめなさい説明。
いやよ。
あなたまで具合悪くなったらどうするの。私はそんなこと望んでいるわけじゃないわ。
じゃあ帰りましょう。
それは。
This exchange we repeat over and over, while slowly Himiko-san climbed up. Eventually, when those feet stopped, that was the time that I feared. At the time, just what should I do? Okay, 18 for someone's sake. As the orange strained today, all I noticed turned into the purple of night. This is good. Yep. Finally, Himiko-san's feet stopped. We were just beyond the 7th station. Perhaps it was a place with many rocky stretches and a very wide, wonderful view. Looking at my watch, it was already 3 o'clock at night, which meant almost an entire day had passed. And as expected from the time and perhaps yesterday's weather, there were no other climbers to be seen.
夜明けを待って。ここで言うわ。
Saying that, Himiko-san began walking towards the edge of the rocky stretch. Peering down the edge of the cliff, it was dark and hard to see. The bottom of the ravine was far enough that you couldn't guess its height. At the least, if you were to throw yourself out without a doubt, you wouldn't live.
いよいよ盛り上がってきたわね。
高さも十分なのね。
ええ。7階の100倍くらいよ。
Altitude about 3,000 meters. Also no high fence for protection.
説明。聞きたいことがあったら今のうちよ。
At those words, a number of thoughts swirled. But even though there should have been a number of questions, for some reason putting each one into words was difficult. So after a moment's thought, I finally opened my mouth.
もっと姫子さんのことを教えて。
This was also the question that resulted from all my thinking.
私のことを聞きたいの？それとも私のような立場にある者のことを聞きたいの？
姫子さん自身のこと。
私はこの世界に5万といるクリスチャンの一人よ。それ以上でもそれ以下でもないわ。
And now she was going to say complaints to God. That was probably attempting to break one of the greatest of prohibitions.
じゃあ以前のフランダースの犬の話、どうしても3人の中から選ばないといけないの。
ええ、人にそれ以外の選択肢はないわ。
She firmly said so. The one who was leaving Nello, the one left behind Alois, the two that will never meet.
じゃあ姫子さんは誰？
On that question, there was no answer. Little by little, the sky whitened in this place. In this place where it seemed you could touch the sky, she quietly hung her head. Surely the pajama wearing Himiko-san was Nello. Then the Himiko-san now was probably Alois. To say complaints to God if Nello wasn't allowed to, then that was understandable. Then just who was I? For the purpose was I brought to this place.
どうやら時間が来たようね。
Saying that, Himiko-san looked up at the sky.
説明受け取りなさい。
And then taking something from her pocket, she handed it to me.
ロザリオ。
別に捨ててくれてもいいわよ。ただもう私には持っている資格ないからね。
Just what was that supposed to mean? I didn't have to ask to know. However, up until now, even while she was saying she was a former, why did she carry it with her all this time? When I thought about it, I felt that deep down, it's not like she really wanted to do this.
本当にいいの？
祈りがあるなら呪いもあるってことよ。
やめてほしい。そう言っちゃダメ。
Depends
理
on
由によるわ。
a reason one to pull her back. Even Himiko-san herself wished to, even if she was already a resident of the 7th floor with a closed-off future. If just like with living people were giving the right to die, then a reason good enough to stop that. Just who would have such a thing? I don't even know what is right. What would be kindness? For some reason, I began crying. Being nearby and able to do nothing, I came to know how powerless I was. It started to get light, and looking up at the endless sky, I was overcome with sadness. No matter how much I thought, I couldn't come up with any decent reasons to pull her back. Fumiko-san herself had decided that I might not have any right to interfere, but even if it were so, even if it didn't have a reason for why I should pull her back.
だって私も悲しいから。
Not for some random person, because I myself would be sad. Because this me here wanted her to stop. Even if it were just the one-sided ego of the one left behind. Even if I could bear my own pain because I can't bear another's. Because the one leaving being sad meant the ones remaining were pained the most. Moreover, for me, it was still always.
無理だよ。
Don't make such a.
そんな顔しないで。そんな顔され私も辛くなるじゃないの。
If I were a saint, my words were not simply for comfort nor a charm, but real magic.
今こそ お姉さん、友達にならなければよかった。
The girl stood before me as I continued to cry, and she apologized sadly.
ちゃんとルールにあったのにね。ここに来たら友達を作ってはいけないって。ごめんね。ちゃんと私が守っていたらお姉さんを泣かせることもなかったのに。
And then once again facing the sky, the girl started praying. Facing the high summer sky that stretched out forever, she offered a prayer to the God who was probably out there. At that serious figure, the rosary I gave her in hand, believing that the simple Lord's Prayer was a magical spell of that figure.
もういいから、もう祈るのはいいから。どうして無駄なのよ。
Finally, as a Christian, the words that shouldn't be said came out.
だからもうやめて。あなたは助かる。どうやっても。
And then even as a helper, even as Nell's best friend Alois, the words that I must never say came out.
分かってる。 じゃあどうして？別に私はもういいの。泣いているお姉さんが泣き止むように、早くいつもの笑顔になってくれるように。それだけを祈りたいの。
どうして泣いているの？
知らないの？こんな時には泣いてもいいのよ。
Miko-san cried. In the place where it seemed you could touch the sky, it was the first time she showed me tears. At such a time, what words I should say, just what would be kindness, because I didn't know that. Simply so she would stop crying even just a little bit sooner, so that her smile would return even just a little sooner. Patting her back, just gently stroking, was all that I could do.
やめなさいよ。中学生にいたわられるほど柔和な人生を送ってないわよ。
気にしないで。病人歴もあなたより上よ。
年下のくせに。
The blue-purple dawn sky grew white and changed to a sunrise. The wind that began to blow from the valley made a lonely sound. Miko-san cried. The wind over the ravine also wailed, and probably I too was crying.
やめるわ。文句言うのは。
As she spoke, she faced the sky and placed her hands together.
じゃあこれ返すわ。
そうね。これがないと効果薄かったわね。
Then she hung the rosary I ring turned on her neck. In this high place, to an even higher, towards the sky, she offered a prayer.
よく聞きなさい。難聴気味だろうからここまで来てやったのよ。別に 私のことはもうどうでもいいの。だけど少なくとも私のことでいつまでも心を痛める人がいないようにして、そして少しでも早く立ち直るようにして。
As if speaking to herself, Himiko-san coolly murmured. There was a number of other words continuing on, but for me, I could hear what she was saying beyond that. Perhaps Himiko-san had made up with God. That expression, neither despairing nor compassionate, was proud and could even be considered beautiful. And this was probably of those two she said would never meet. The one leaving's wish for those left behind. That's all of it. And then she turned towards me. So with that,
月並みのお願いで拍子抜けした。
I gave my head a small shake. Even if they were called cliched, if I were in Himiko-san's position, would I have in the same I sincerely wished for those remaining behind?
説明。あなたは証人よ。
私が
もし願いをたがえたときは、次はあなたが代わりに文句を言ってね。神様とやらに。
それがここに私を連れてきた目的。
まあ半分はね。
残り半分はやっぱり秘密。
そうね。
Saying that, she thought for a moment. Magic
魔
is like,
法みたいなもんよ。
魔法。
今は効果なくてもね、きっと後で効いてくるはずよ。
once again under the morning sky, we hit the roads. Within that, with lunch bought from a convenience store in hand, Himiko-san whispered.
とりあえず私もルールに一つ追加させてもらうわ。
ルール？
友達は作ってもいいってね。
And taking the rosary from her
本
pocket,
当はこのロザリオもさ、あなたにあげてもいいんだけど、やっぱまだ私には必要だからね。
as she spoke, she moved it from her neck to decorate her chest.
だから節美には違うものをプレゼントするわ。
違うもの？
決めるのはあなたよ。
And now the roadster drove on from the sloped road slowly towards the city. Gripping the wheel was Himiko-san, not in pajamas, but the usual Himiko-san I knew. What was different from all the times before was the rosary visible on her chest.
ねえ節美、一つだけ言わせて。これからさ、あなたが誰を選んでも最後の最後に心まで殺しちゃダメよ。
何のこと？
いいのよ。今はね、きっと大丈夫。最後には笑えるはずよ。
That's probably what she mentioned before. That probably was what she mentioned before. The so-called magic. Magic.
じゃあここでお別れしましょう。
The rolling sound of bells, stopping the car in front of the church. Himiko said, "Let me get off." Okay.
節美、もうお見舞いに来ちゃダメよ。
Sudden words. Their word to never meet again. It meant farewell.
ね、こんな時私は残されるものはどうすればいいの？
別に普通でいいのよ。
もっと具体的に言って。
言葉の通りよ。普通のまま。
Even though a close person will soon be dying, even though they never meet again, could those left behind there be really normal?
難しいこと言わないでよ。
じゃあ笑って見送ってあげて。
もっと難しいわ。
And then turning her back towards me, Himiko-san started walking toward the church in front of her. Facing that back, I asked a final question.
姫子さん、最後にもう一つだけ教えて。
いいわよ。
Tell me one last thing, sure.
ネロは、アロアは幸せだったの？
At that question, Himiko-san silently looked down. Shortly after, just briefly, she glanced at the church, and then boldly facing the sky.
さあどっちなんだろうね。よくわからないね。
While speaking, she gave me a smile. Even though very soon she would probably disappear from this world, in the end, she faced me with her usual smile.
それじゃさよなら、コロッケ博士。
And so the friend of 40 days one summer disappeared around the 7th floor. Named Himiko, a princess is Hime with a child's co, blood type AB, age 23, Libra, female. Final identification bracelet color white. Near 1999, out of the world's over 1 billion Catholics, one disappeared.
私に変なあだ名と不思議な魔法をかけ、この世界からも
The high sun when you look up, the rolling sound of church bells, the endlessly continuing blue sky, the loudly crying voices of cicadas. Even though very soon the summer would end, today also looked to be a hot day. Okay, a bunch of credits. We'll just wait for those, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, is it done? No. It's not done yet. Oh. It doesn't move unless I'm on the page. Oops, I'm sorry. Epilogue Winter. That very long summer ended. A quickly fall passed and early Christmas songs were playing in the streets.
節美、荷物が届いているわよ。
あ、うん。
I took the small package from Mother. Normally, I wouldn't be receiving any packages. However, there was only one thing that came to my mind. A package to be delivered on a certain date. That sender's name, with a sense of premonition, I went to check. Alois. Letters written with a small ballpoint pen. It was from Himiko-san. While alive, at what point she sent it out, I didn't know, but she had said that she would give a different thing as a present. And then tremblingly, with equal amounts of expectation and unease, I opened it to look.
ワンピース。
Summery white with a cute yellow sunflower pattern. It was something that she had said numerous times that she would buy for me, the thing that I had seemed to want. The one-piece dress spread in my hands. By the window on a hanger were the washed pajamas, and the sailor uniform I was still wearing now. As proof of my once normal days, the only piece of clothing other than pajamas that I owned. My heart swayed. So happy before I knew it, I was about to pass my arms through the sleeves. But I stopped my hands. And then once again, returning to the box, I headed to where the person who was more worthy of accepting it was. A place I hadn't come to a number of months. Passing through the side of the nurse's station, my goal was to find her, but she was nowhere to be seen, and the room that Himiko-san had once been in, it was expected, but a nameplate I didn't recognize. Nameplate I didn't recognize. Giving the old lady in the wheelchair inside a small bow, giving the old lady in the wheelchair a small bow in greeting, I left the 7th floor. While returning by chance, the corridor came into view. In that place, here and there, daffodils were beginning to blossom. The other flower beds had been left barren in the season, and I thought their singingly blooming figures were proud and beautiful. The rolling sound of bells visiting here was the first since Himiko-san's funeral. The rolling sound of bells visiting here was the first since Himiko-san's funeral. Then I called to the person I had been searching for.
千尋さん。あ、節美さん。お久しぶりね。どうしたのこんな場所まで。病院にいなかったから。あ、ヘルパーはもう辞めちゃったから。少し気持ちが落ち着くまでお休みすることにしたの。
Saying that and changed from before, she showed me her calm face. From that expression, I felt I might not have been a duty. I felt I might not have a duty. I felt I've been told that I didn't have to go to say complaints in her place.
ところでどうしたの？もしかしてお祈りに来たの？うん、そうじゃない。
As I spoke, I took from my tote bag the box from the clothing.
プレゼントよ。お姉さんから。
The clothing from the box. I'm sorry. A present from your Oni-san.
ちょっと小さいかもしれないけど。そう。ありがとう。
Accepting the box, she gave the reply, but a somehow troubled expression surfaced.
千尋さん。ごめんね。実はお姉ちゃんから聞かされてたんだ。何のこと？もしかしたら節美さんが私にそう言ってくるかもって。でね、その時はこれを渡してくれって。
Atop the bed spread maps. On there were national roads, expressways, countless roads I didn't know the names of. Separate wide maps of all 47 prefectures at a few tens of thousands to one scale and 3,000 to one scale detailed city maps were drawn on them, nurturing the one piece. I received maps. Perhaps Himiko-san had expected this, then I would choose this side. I then tucked into the maps was a single envelope. What was inside 5 10,000 yen bills. Once, while looking at the maps, she said that with just that much, one could go anywhere.
これが最後に笑えるための残り半分の魔法なのだろうか。
There is a prayer, then there is also a curse. Most likely I would choose neither. I have a feeling I won't be able to choose. As someone like that, just what would become of me, I wonder.
こんな私でもいつかは笑えるのだろうか。最後には笑うことができるのだろうか。
Okay. So we finished that. Is there another epilogue? The first floor just before outpatient reception. I walked along the white plastic tape stretched on the floor. And then at the end of it, I got into the small elevator and pressed the button for the highest floor. Oh, wait, this is the beginning again. Is it? 7th floor. For the nurses station altogether, a number of nurses looked this way. Once they recognized me, their eyes turned back. As if they saw nothing, they returned to their work. The lounge. Recently, it was my usual spot. From the large television screen came some early spring program. I was just somewhat gazing at it. There was nothing else to do, nothing else I could do. Since that time, it had been almost a month. It felt as if something had changed. I also felt as if nothing had changed. Then my parents complained, as I had expected. And then for some reason from her parents came words of thanks. The difference between the two of us parents, the two sets of parents was impressive.
こんにちは。
When I turned around, it was a young woman I didn't recognize. And you were?
新しく7階担当となったヘルパーです。よろしくお願いします。
Cheerfully, the girl bowed her head slightly. She seemed to still be a newcomer, but most likely she also had come to ask about that incident. Outside of those who were directly involved, there weren't any that knew the details, but in this hospital some rumors had been spreading. Probably wasn't out out of just simple curiosity, just because of that various people have come to speak to me. You also know?
聞きましたよ。例の件について。
I see. I'm sure that the person was also thinking that I did something stupid. Even when people listened to my story, for the most part, they frowned. That was why I didn't particularly like telling people.
節美さん、最後は笑ってくれましたか？
Eh?
もしそうなら、私も嬉しいです。
The severe winter ended, and soon one would be unable to wear The severe winter ended, and soon one would be unable to wear button-down clothing.
入りますよ。どうですか？お加減は。
Now today it looks pretty good. Even though she had her own assignment, she would often come to see me. Oh, that's right, you. Knew about Setsumi?
ええ。大学生の時にもヘルパーやってたんですけど、その時に少しだけ。
I see. With that answer, she had a calm, somewhat nostalgic expression. Were you close?
どうでしょうね。あまり感情を出さない人でしたし。ただ、彼女のために何度かお祈りはさせていただきました。
Prayed?
ええ。今でもお祈りしていますよ。
That's for whom?
すべての人のためです。
Words with no hesitation.
もしよかったら、あなたにも。
Epilogue. April. I was looking at the vases decorating in the window. Those were the same flowers as the ones we saw that day. She had said that it was rare to find them in this season. Even speaking strictly, they were the same. When I asked about them afterwards, they were apparently taken from those blooming in the courtyard. That's why it was that at the time. She answered Awajishima, I wonder. She had said it was simply because she was asked, but with her encyclopedic knowledge, she should have known that they were planted at the hospital.
こんにちは。
Today the helper girl also came.
その花好きなんですか？
Sorta.
綺麗ですね。確か水仙でしたっけ？
Narcissus.
ナルチッソス。
It seems that's their scientific name. From the family of Amaryllidaceae. Sorry, they blossomed in the winter and one could grow them from seeds, but it takes years to flower, so they are cultivated as bulbs. Then, in the language of flowers, self-love. However, whether that were true,
詳しいんですね。よかったらもっと教えてください。
originally the word came from Greek myth. June, the thin sky of right before the rainy season spread wide. Under the watercolor sky, my temporary discharge had been postponed. It was supposed to be my third temporary discharge, so essentially it would be a perpetual postponement.
大丈夫ですか？
Ah, cough, I'm fine. More importantly, since 2 months ago, no one new had come. Perhaps the timing was bad, but already there were very few people left. Hey, is there anyone new said to come here?
詳しくは知らないですけど、何でも半年ほどは新規の受け入れはしないって聞いています。
I see.
それがどうかしましたか？
It was most likely our fault. And putting my trust in you, I have just one request.
はい、何でしょう？
This is really something you have nothing to do with, but please, I want you to pass this on.
それじゃあ一度しか言わないからしっかり聞いてね。
Okay, more credits. This might get copyrighted a lot. Special thanks. English staff. iPhone port.
しかった日のこと、冬の日のこと。
Alright, okay, that is the full story. Thank you everyone. I'm going to exit this game. Okay everyone. Thank you for coming to this stream. Let's see. Raid channel. I'll raid Cafe Feco. Okay, bye everyone.